Board. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 24th meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Planning. And do we have enough people here, or everybody was here for approving the minutes? That's the first item on the agenda, is to approve the minutes in the January 27th meeting. Now,
I might call in a phone or
Oh, I'm
from
sorry.
Jamie.
oh yeah, and do we need to do roll call first?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'll do roll call. Jamie, could you, if you're able, tell us who was here at the last meeting from this board who was able to vote on those minutes, please? And in the meanwhile, I'll do roll call. Richard Klein?
Here, but I was not here in January.
Okay. Holly Thurston? Here. Carla Elliott? Here. And Acting Chair Aronson?
Here.
Okay.
I think you'll have to wait minutes.
For
If Richard's.
Oh, to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
If Richard wasn't here, then you don't have a quorum.
Oh, true. Okay.
Oh,
All right.
We don't have a quorum to vote on that.
Not a quorum to vote on the minutes.
Right, so you just,
Yeah.
just hold them off for like
Okay.
1 month.
All right, so we'll wait till Eric comes. So let's move to the next, we're gonna do additional business of the board first. So we're gonna move to the moratorium on battery energy storage systems. And I'm going to turn to staff to walk us through this, and then we'll have a discussion among board members.
So, I think Taryn and I are gonna sort of split this discussion. I'll just kind of talk a little bit about, what was the impetus behind this, like in terms of like the current zoning, and then Taryn, I'll turn it over to you to talk about moratoriums and, what basically summarize what the moratorium language says. So basically, the village board has decided to considering a moratorium on battery energy storage systems. Because right now the current zoning does not necessarily, have any does not have any regulations dealing with the installation of battery energy storage systems. Specifically, right now, technically battery energy storage systems kind of rolls up under public utilities, and public utilities is a special permit. And it's permitted in pretty much like every zoning district. But what it doesn't do, you know, when that was the public utilities was adopted back in 2009, that was prior to any of this type of technology having existed. And now that it does exist, there are a number of, specific requirements that are typically associated with battery energy storage systems. And we don't have that the village doesn't have it in their zoning. And so the village board would like to take a look at battery energy storage systems, potential regulations, and also potential, identifying which zoning districts it would be most appropriate in. And then I'll turn it over to Taryn to talk a little bit about the moratorium language and the process.
Right. And so essentially what this would do is this would put a temporary pause on all land use review and approval of any battery energy storage systems. So it would be suspended. There's an exception for if there was anything that was already approved that could still move forward, but I don't believe that's the case. It just gives the village some time to sit back and think about how it wishes to regulate this use. What I can tell you is the local law has been updated from what is currently before you. Just really minor tweaks. We have added definitions of a tier 1 and tier 2 best system. And also what we've added is a process for an applicant to seek a hardship exemption from the terms of the moratorium. So there's a mechanism for an applicant to go to the Board of Trustees and claim a hardship and try to be able to be subject to the land use review process again. But all this does is it gives the village some time to think about how they want to regulate this.
Does the language say how long the suspension is for?
8 months, I believe, right, Valerie?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yep.
Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to board members to ask any questions we might have. I mean, my understanding is we're just here tonight making a recommendation to the Village Board of Trustees. But if we have questions or concerns or things that we specifically want the BOT to take under advisement, now's the time to discuss.
So currently we have these in the, like the Arcadian parking lot.
Right, we
Yeah.
approved it at this board for Stop and Shop several years ago, but I think that's the only location in Ossining.
Think of any others.
Yeah, for the village of Ossining.
Yeah.
So down by the train station, that's not the village? Don't they have it by the train station?
Those are EV charging stations, yeah.
That not the actual, but, so actually.
Arcadian has those too. Yeah.
These battery systems do provide the energy though to those charging stations, is that correct?
Yes. And that's why, just in general, there's two different tiers, typically a tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 is a smaller unit, tier 2 are bigger units. So, that's more part of what the board's also gonna be looking at is in trying to determine, which, if you want if they want tier 1 in certain zoning districts, and tier 2 in other zoning districts or vice versa. And then the regulations associated with the tier 1s and tier 2s.
And so, and as Taryn, I think as you mentioned, there is a hardship option if there's an application in process, and that would be an application to the Board of Trustees for an exemption to the moratorium, is that correct?
That's correct, and there would be a public hearing associated with that.
Okay. Any other board member concerns or questions?
No.
Okay, so are we comfortable with referring this over to the Board of Trustees as written? Okay, do we need to take a vote on that, or it's just, we're
No.
ready to
The
move it?
general consensus is positive, Valerie and I can relay that information.
All right, the next item on the agenda is an extension of the moratorium in the SPN and RDD zoning districts, but it would be helpful if, since we've approved this once, an extension, but it would be helpful if staff could just refresh our memories as to what this is.
Yeah, so this is another moratorium, but the moratorium is only going to extend for the SPM, which is the Station Plaza North. The Riverfront Development District, if you recall, those zoning regulations have been adopted. And so those are complete. So it's just an extension of the moratorium for the SPN. And there is some draft zoning that will be circulated hopefully soon to this board for recommendation. So they're getting close, the village board is getting close to having a recommendation to send over for your review on that.
Well, and how long is this moratorium for?
I think this one is gonna be in a 4-month extension, I believe.
And the moratorium, again, is just,
It's only for, it's specifically for residential units.
okay,
So on the side we hear coffee with beer is.
Yeah,
That little, triangle, yeah.
okay, board members, any questions, concerns about the ending? All right, so we go back to approving the minutes.
Yes,
Eric
please.
is here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the January 27th?
One person made motions.
Maybe a second motion.
Okay,
Holly and Carla. Just saying that a little bit louder for Jean's, no, just saying names,
Okay, we don't need to take a vote on this, do we?
All in favor?
All in
Yeah.
favor,
I
hearing no objections, the minutes are approved. Okay, so we'll move on to the new business of the board, which is Planning Board 01-2026. It is 45 Central Avenue, and the applicant is seeking site plan approval for a public utility substation, which we just discussed as part of the moratorium. So if I could have the applicant come up and identify yourself and give us sort of a big picture, overview of what you're proposing. It might
Okay.
be helpful.
Well, hi, I'm Doug Warden. I'm a partner in the Tarrytown law firm of Snyder and Snyder. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Catalyze Energy in connection with their efforts to locate a battery energy storage system at 45 Central. I'm gonna say BESS a little bit, battery energy, that's like, yeah, that's like the acronym, so that's what I mean if I'm saying that. So I think in a second, I want to introduce Jeremy Smith of Waldron Engineering to talk about like the site plan elements of the whole thing, and then also the just the general layout of it. But before I do that, I have a couple of quick points and I beg your patience. And I think I'll be quick. So first, the reason why we're here tonight is to locate a battery energy storage system in Ossining that will benefit approximately 1,700 households by ensuring that they have cheap, clean, and reliable electricity during times of peak power demand. That's what these facilities do. Number two, we understand that the village is presently considering a moratorium, and we're grateful to the planning board has elected to allow this application to be considered under the code as it's presently configured until such time as the moratorium is enacted or whatever may happen, or if there's a legislative change. So thank you for that. Number three, we've been in contact with village staff since approximately December of 2024 on this project. We understand that the village has certain planning and engineering concerns regarding the project, but we're confident that we can work to incorporate the village's comments and revise our proposal as necessary to create a project that will be safe and well sited in all respects. In fact, we've already significantly revised our materials in response to municipal feedback. We have commissioned and performed a variety of geotechnical studies to establish the structural stability of the slopes. We've revised the site plans to include unique anchoring structures to provide additional stability. And we've included additional runoff structures that I think were suggested. We want you to know that we're here as a resource and a partner through this process. Now, we have significant prior experience in Westchester and New York City working with municipalities to site these facilities, and where necessary, develop a new BESS code. So please rely on us and lean on us where necessary. We have a lot of experience. We recently went through a code development process with Tarrytown and the approval of their first BESS facility, and recommend that you reach out to your counterparts in Tarrytown to discuss how they handled the siting of their first BESS facility. You can even ask them what they thought of us. Hopefully they'll report back positively, but that's a resource for you just to the south. And these are different municipalities, but they share some similarities. Last point, the recently adopted provisions of the New York State Fire Code urge municipalities to engage a NYSERDA certified third-party best fire safety engineer to advise them during the approval process. This was found to be super helpful during the Tarrytown review, and these NYSERDA certified third-party engineers, there's a list of them. There aren't that many of them because it's kind of a rare specialty. But municipalities find that these very specific kinds of engineers can give them the kind of niche advice that is really, really helpful. And so we encourage the village to engage such professionals, and we're willing to fund an escrow in furtherance of that. So thanks for listening to that. Here is Jeremy Smith of Waldron Engineering to tell you a little bit more about the site plan elements of that. Thank you.
Good evening. Are we allowed to use our PowerPoint presentation?
No.
Okay. So I'm Jeremy Smith, Waldron Engineering Construction Professional Engineer in the state of New York, fire protection engineer specifically. And Waldron Engineering is engaged with Catalyze doing a number of battery energy storage projects. As you've heard, we recently had one permitted in Tarrytown, New York. So you see here from the basic layout, there is an existing industrialized site next to a welding shop that has some usable surface area above a steep slope. So if you'd scroll down a little bit, you can see there's the two lots. And this is a simple rendering of what that would look like. These are Tesla Megapack 2 XLs. So each one of these is 1 megawatt. That's 1,000 kilowatts, and nominally 4,000 kilowatt hours, exactly 3,960. So each one of these represents that value, and in total, they're 3 megawatts by 12 megawatt hours using whole numbers. And what does that represent? Well, that represents a reasonable installation of a battery energy storage system, a public utility substation, which would benefit the local area. So what Con Ed has done is Con Ed has gone through and mapped out for us where there are potentials for improvement. These are typically stressed grid lines, electrical lines, that are having trouble meeting the growing demand. So there's a growing demand. Maybe your village center is growing in size, or additional electrification is coming on, or there are other constraints that are having difficulty getting power to this area. So they specifically identified this section of the grid line as something that needs improvement, and this would be a step towards it. It's tier 2 in the NYSERDA model language, and tier 2 covers everything greater than 600 kilowatt hours, which is a wide spread. There are projects that we're working on that are 200 megawatts, 800 megawatt hours, that require 200 or 300 of these. There are projects we're working on that only have a single one of these. So all of those are tier 2. So tier 2 is a great spread. You easily say that a village of this size, where you are, you don't have room for 100 megawatts by 400 megawatt hours, and that's not what's being presented to you. These are 3 boxes. This is a reasonable step towards addressing the potential for improvement that's been identified in this area. And what that might look like is currently, I don't know if you have a smart TV or you've noticed center lights flickering, especially in August and July. As we use more and more electricity, the grid becomes stressed. They're trying to get the power to us. It's 7 p.m. They can only get so much power from up north, from stations in the area, to get to specific loads. And this device here at midnight can take in power when it's easy to get here and give it back at 7 p.m. And it can regulate voltage and frequency. And those are 2 characteristics of the electrical grid that are important, especially if you're like me and you have a smart TV and you're at the end of the line. And my house is at the end of the line. And my TV will frequently, right in the middle of a show, stop and reset back to its home screen. And I know that's because there's a voltage dip in the area because I'm at the end of the line. So things like this either have happened or may start to happen as the grid becomes more stressed as we get into these July and August periods, as a society, as we look for electrification to replace our fossil fuel use. So you don't have a propane stove anymore, you have an electric stove, and you have an electric car charger, and you have many more electronic devices in your house, and you have a lithium-ion powered snowblower, and you have a lithium-ion powered lawnmower. All these devices need power, and where they come together with the air conditioning loads, that's at 5 to 11 p.m. That's when power is really needed. This can sit here, discharge power, 3 megawatts for 4 hours. So it could cover us from, say, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., right when we need it the most. And then starting at midnight, when most of us have gone to bed and our power use goes down, it can charge up again until 8 a.m. and sit there and wait until the clock comes back to 6 p.m. and do it again the next night. Thank you for advancing. So here we're looking at a top view. So these are 3 battery energy storage, and I'll focus on that a lot. When we first countered and discussed in December of 2024, we had 5 of those units, and they extended out further to the left, and they were laid out over this. As we studied the site, and as you got back to us, you were concerned about the steep slope. We found the line that's called the steep slope influence line. And that is basically a demarcation of a heavy object in that area would have some kind of impact on that slope. And the objects that we're going to put there are heavy. Each one of the Tesla Megapack 2XLs is 84,000 pounds. So it's very concentrated in 28 feet by 5 feet wide. So that footprint, there's a lot of weight that goes there. So what we've done, and this is a technical term, is we've scooched them close to the areas where we're outside of the steep slope influence line. And in future meetings, if you want to meet with him, I'll bring a structural engineer with me and he'll explain how almost everything is over the steep slope influence line. There's some objects, particularly the HTME, that's the lower left-hand.
No, just giving some
Sure.
context.
Oh, yeah. So over in this corner, there is a box called the HTME. That's the high tension metering enclosure. And while that box is situated on the steep slope influence line, That box is mainly empty. It's just metering equipment that measures how much electricity is being produced or discharged from the grid, so it's not that heavy. So that we felt safe putting that there, studied by our structural engineer, seconded by repeated reviews by our geotechnical engineers. Do you want to move forward to the next?
Sure.
So you can kind of begin to see the contour lines and how there's that steep slope, and how when we redesigned the site to reduce down to 3 battery energy storage packs, we wanted to stay away from all of that. And therefore we've come here. At this point, I do want to shift into a few of our safety infrastructure features. So when you're looking at these Megapack 2XLs, these are the most advanced form of battery energy storage available in the marketplace. There's a rigorous review, which is done by the Fire Department of New York, to allow certain high-tier, high-function, high-safety battery energy storage enclosures to be installed in the dense urban environment of New York City. This is one of those systems. So only a handful of systems have required that. You'll hear people talk about this fire here or this fire here. Almost invariably, those are not these ultra-safe qualified systems that can be in a dense urban environment like New York City. So those 3 Tesla Megapack 2XLs, each one of them has a triple level of battery energy storage safety control system. So we monitor every cell in the system, and a cell is exactly what it sounds like, a battery cell. And then we monitor the module, which is a collection of the cells in a particular system, and we monitor the entire rack. And all those systems are monitored, and any failure or anything that happens that's out of the norm is instantly seen by the 24/7 nighttime operations center, which is currently located just outside of Houston, Texas, where they're monitoring all of them around the world. Those triple level battery management systems are for each internal box. And then we have another system that watches the 3 boxes themselves. That's called the site controller. And then we have an energy management system that watches that box. So we have watchers watching the watchers, and watchers watching the watchers. And those systems are all interconnected and speak back, as I said, instantly to the nighttime operations center and to Catalyze's asset management. And then I don't trust that. So then I have a completely separate system called the fire monitoring system. Independent from all of that, this watches for any thermal spots to start to develop on the exterior of the modules. Whatever happened, it didn't detect it, it didn't shut itself down. This is an ultimate safeguard outside of the realm of all of those. Can't be turned off or influenced by any of those. It goes straight to Central Station, which we'll then call Westchester Central Operations 50 Control. And so that system with those thermal detectors is overwatching everything. And then in addition to all that, we have a manual e-stop. Because if I was a first responder and I hadn't attended the training for some reason and I didn't know anything about it, I'd want to know that I could shut this whole thing down outside of the fence line and never go in. So there's a box there. It'll have a Knox box, which is a keyed box. Your first responders would have that key. They'd be able to open that box and press a button right there. And once that button is pressed, the system is shut down. No one in Texas, no one at Catalyze operations, nobody can make anything happen until you pop that button back out. You push that button in, and we did 2 of those just in case it was hard to find one, or one was blocked by snow or whatever. So there's 2 of those, and you'll see the e-stop, Knox box, and document holder. The document holder contains all the instructions for the site and emergency response procedures, which brings me to the hazard mitigation personnel. So in a site like this, a site like those that we've approved, just stay on this for a minute. There'll be a designated agency, company that has multiple people inside it who's dedicated just to provide you with support. So if your first responders receive a signal from here or go to the site, there's a phone number for them to call. That's the Tesla Nighttime Operations Center, just outside Houston. That's great, but they're in Houston. There's another number for them to call, which is a subject matter expert, hazard mitigation personnel. And that is someone who will be on the phone with them within 15 minutes and will arrive on site within 4 hours. For this project, Catalyze has selected Spark Fire Protection, who I know personally I've worked with on many sites. They are excellent, Steve Venditti and his crew. I'd highly recommend them. And they're working with me on other battery sites for catalyze. So these guys, Steve himself is about 2.5 hours away, a little less, it depends on traffic. If it's midnight, then he'll get here pretty quickly. If it's 5 PM, then, it takes a little longer. But definitely within the 4-hour region, and he has multiple people in his organization, so you're not just calling Steve, you're calling the company. And I think I'll stop there and see the board. Let's just stop me here and say, any safety infrastructure type questions, because this is the best drawing.
Yeah, I think we can get into that in a minute, but I think what I'd like to do, I mean, unless there's more that you want to say, I think I'd like to hear from staff and then let board members ask questions or for further clarification, but if we can hear from staff, Valerie and Tony about your concerns or.
Tony, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Sure, no, I just, getting to the weight issue, I don't think you submitted the new geotech on this round in the submittal documents, but if you do resubmit that, I would recommend, forward it to Carlin Simpson, perhaps, our geotech, just to look at the weights of those mega packs. One of my items of concern is the wall that runs along there, and I don't know how the weight's going to have on the soils, and all the supports for that wall come down around the gravel where you're going to be driving. So that's going to be one of our concerns. We're going to want to see that addressed. And another big item that I kind of bullet pointed in my memo is these are big units. We're going to want to see how, are you going to be using village property to set these? Is there going to be a crane in the road? Because the site seems too small to even bring in a crane. So we're going to want to see how all those logistics and construction are going to work. And, you're going to have to sit down with the village engineer to go over all that as well, to be using the village property. My other concern is also erosion controls. I didn't see that you had an erosion control plan. So during construction, there's going to be ground disturbance right next to the steep slopes. I'd like to see, how you're going to address all the erosion control concerns. Landscaping, I think that's going to be important in a site like this to show a decent landscape plan. Site lighting, how that's going to affect the neighboring properties, foot candles. And one of the big things that I know a lot of the board's going to ask for this as well, and I believe it came up in some of our preliminary discussions. We want to see an overall plan. We want to see the distances to the nearest buildings. So some dimensioning on a larger scale, just to see how close, buildings are to this site. And, just see some proper grading, some of the proposed grading. The plans were a little bit hard to read in that sense. I couldn't tell what was proposed and what's existing. But those are some of my bigger points. I won't get into stormwater. I don't want to put anybody to bed, but that's about it on my end.
Excellent, ma'am. Do you want me to address the concerns or listen for more?
I think, well, why don't I just go through the other comments that we had?
And then we can.
So I just give this board a little bit more general procedural comments. This will require seeker review, and the applicant will need to submit an environmental assessment form prior to getting that started, because it's going to be an unlisted action. This does require a special use permit, and that needs to be obtained from the village board. So there will be simultaneous board approvals. And then this will also require site plan approval, as you know, and then local waterfront revitalization consistency. It will need a referral from the Environmental Advisory Council as well. So a couple things with the site plan. Typically, when I'm working with communities that don't have any sort of best regulations, I usually like to have them refer to the NYSERDA model law. So in there, they have some specific regulations dealing with utility lines, signage, lighting controls, vegetation management, tree clearing, noise standards, fire safety and emergency access requirements, and then decommissioning plans and financial assurance. So those are things that I think might be helpful to get more information from the applicant on. Also, in addition to that, the NYSERDA model law typically requires a decommissioning plan, operations and maintenance plan, and emergency operations plan. So again, having those provided would be very helpful. I think you did submit a decommissioning plan.
We did, yes.
But the other plans would be helpful to have those as well. And then also just in general, the applicant has, as they noted, they have contacted the village. And in the past, we have raised concerns, and I'm gonna say these are collective concerns that the village has raised with like engineering, building, as well as legal, is like the structural integrity of the site, the amount of space allocated for like stormwater treatment, how that would work, because it's a really tight site. Vegetation removal, especially, I know you're saying you don't necessarily have to deal with on the hillside, but if there's other vegetation removal that would be required. Also construction phasing, I think there is a concern with how that would also work. The wall that Tony raised, I think there is concern with that, and especially the locations of those batteries, in relation to that wall. Maneuverability of the site for maintenance and battery replacement. And then fire safety access, and then also concerning how close those battery storage systems are with the neighboring property, and the neighboring property has a lot of materials on that site and very close to the property line. And then also any concerns on the amount of fill that would potentially need to be excavated from the site. So those are just in general, those are more general comments that have been raised in the beginning of.
And then we don't expect you to answer all of these questions at this point. I mean, if there's one or two points you'd like to make in response to that, we can do that, but I'd also like to let board members chime in and ask questions and raise their.
Could I just address the stormwater, because I think I heard that twice, so, do you want to flip to the plans? And just explain, how we deal with, stormwater on these sites. You go to the civil set, it's a little deeper in. Oh, right there, sorry. I'm sorry, no, that's the microplastic. Keep going. So right here, so if you back out a little bit. All right, so the entire site, all of the working areas of it, are going to be, the topsoil will be scraped away, and we're replacing it with what's called a travel layer. So this is 12 inches of crushed stone, and then 4 inches of a geoweb fabric, which forms a workable base that we can drive over. And then on top of that, there's another layer of the crushed stone, colored as we all decide as a group of what colors there are. So this travel base is suitable only for the maintenance vehicles. So the only thing that would ever traverse onto the site is these maintenance vehicles, and these maintenance vehicles are much like a fork truck. So we have a computer assisted design task that shows us the path that the fork truck maintenance vehicle would take. And so we can show you an animation of how it drives successfully through and makes all of these units maintainable. The second thing we're going to do is have a deeper layer of crushed stone, especially under the battery energy storage units. And that deeper layer of crushed stone forms what's called a dry well. So all of the impacted areas where we'll have this will all be sloped, graded, so that any stormwater that falls onto the site is directed into these dry wells, and then that infiltrates down into the soil. So we don't want to send any of our surface waters down the slope, down the steep slope, or any of that. We want to retain all of that water and deal with it right on our own project site. And then any of the undisturbed soils from the site, we don't touch any of those. And then the structural drawings we went over before, yes, we'll be drawing in what's called a micropile, which is going to go down into the earth, connecting basically our concrete foundations with, down to the bedrock layer, so that we can create a stable base that will hold this here without needing to excavate 10, 15, 20 feet down into the earth. So we're not going to have a lot of spoils, only really what we need to form our dry wells under our unit. These micropiles will be at a slight angle, as you see basically what look like two toothpicks coming out of the bottom of the foundation in the upper left-hand corner. So I think those are the two big issues that I heard that I wanted to address. We'll obviously address the two memos we received Thursday and Friday last week in more detail in our subsequent meeting.
Great, thank you. Board members, questions?
So what is it, you work with Con Ed, like you're helping Con Ed supply the power?
Well, Con Ed has identified certain areas that are in need of improvement. And then we go through a process with them. We say we'd like to put so many of these units here. They evaluate that impact to the grid carefully, looking at the substations. What if that substation fails and another substation has to come over? We go through a pretty extensive process called a CSER with them. And we do that all, we wouldn't come to you unless we'd already gone with Con Ed. And Con Ed said, yes, this is a good site and we need this power here. So Con Ed has already given us the thumbs up. It is our job to get ministerial permitting. So then we come to you as a private developer to say, okay, Con Ed says this is a good site. The region needs this. And then we're asking you to install.
Yeah, but am I paying you for subsidizing my electricity? Is that how it works? Like-
No, you will pay Con Ed.
Right.
Like you always do. The benefit to you as a New York State resident, or specifically in this area resident, is that right now, Con Ed in August, September, some June and July, is buying very expensive power out of the Midwest. And that you see in your rate bills, and that's what the rate increases. They're going back and saying, hey, we can't meet the data centers, the electrification, the electric cars, the electric snow blowers. We can't keep up with all of this. And we need to buy expensive power from outside. If they had enough of these battery energy storage systems, and again, they're all tier 2, but they have some very large ones planned that'll deal with statewide issues. And then they need to put here, 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 and here, because the other thing we don't want to do is try to upgrade the infrastructure. The lines on the poles, and those poles, they're objective enough. We don't want to see huge steel towers come through communities to bring high lines in to distribute more power from the Midwest, from up north, and get the power here, get the power to the city. So instead, we're going to plop these little batteries here, 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 where Con Ed tells us it's a good idea, and then we'll be able to avoid any of that.
Anybody else? I'm curious, do these units make noise if you were sort of standing nearby, or living nearby, walking nearby? Do you hear anything?
Absolutely. They're a HVAC system that's running. They have a coolant system that's passing through them. That heat is discharged through the air. They run, fortunately, the fans are upwards, so you don't tend to hear the noise much. And it's no different than a commercial HVAC system. So if you have a shopping mall or a large grocery store, they have these same things that are probably more noisy than the ones on the Tesla pack. Again, the key thing is that they shoot the air up, which means the noise profile goes up.
Okay, and I know you will address most of the concerns, but I think one of the big concerns is just overall safety. You know, the ability to respond quickly. I know you went through that in fairly great detail, but it's not clear to me. That it seems like there are a lot of networks and things, entities that have to speak to one another. But if there is a fire in one of these units, how quickly can somebody actually be on site in addition to the fire department to address what's going on, and what's the likelihood of a fire starting in one unit spreading to another unit?
Well, thank you for asking. So to study this in great detail, we actually Tesla took one of these units and they tried to burn it. And they couldn't get it to ignite, but after the 9th try, they were successful and they got one to ignite. And it burned roughly half of the unit, thermally consumed. So about half of that box was consumed in that event. There were other units around it, and they suffered only cosmetic damage. They did not propagate through the entire unit, nor did it propagate to an additional unit. And that was the key that we wanted to test, to show people that it's safe, that a thermal runaway in the extreme rare circumstance, and like I said, it took several tries to get one to ignite, intentionally trying to break it, did happen. It would not propagate to the other units.
Did you say your facility in Terrytown is up and running?
No, the facility in Terrytown is has a building permit pending. facility, 1551 Bassett in the Bronx that is owned by Catalyze is up and running. They're slightly older units than these, a little bit smaller, but many of the same safety features.
Which is the site in Tarrytown? What's the address?
120 White Plains Road. And that's depicted here.
But that's not done yet, that's not.
No, that's an artist, that's a rendering. Like I said, that's been approved and we're obtaining a building permit.
And is this photograph proposed for the Ossining site, or that's Terry?
This is just a sample of what battery energy storage would look like. This one I like because you can kind of see the board and the public, you can kind of see the Tesla megapacks through the slatted fence. And that was the older fence design. Here's the newer Quaker bronze fence design. This is a customized product. I call this the elite customized product, and Elite calls it the Jeremy fence. But whoever, this is a customized product that we use all on our battery energy storage sites. Waldron Engineering of New York is the engineer of record for this filing. And if we are so lucky to be approved and constructed, it's possible that Waldron Engineering and Construction, our parent company, would be the actual Westchester general contractor, would build the site. We're currently involved with the Tarrytown site of the state.
How do you prevent somebody, some kid walking down the street, or anybody entering the site, vandalizing, or what is in place to prevent somebody from deciding that maybe they want to go on the site?
Well, there's the fence. You can climb fences, whether I make it chain link that's pretty ugly or I make a pretty fence like that, you can still climb it. So if you did go and you climb the fence and you get inside, well, now you're in a place with all locked cabinets. And if you want to go to one of those cabinets and try to open it, maybe cut that lock off, then as soon as you open that cabinet, we're going to know. And that's all assuming we didn't see you on CCTV because we were watching the whole time. So you open one of those cabinets, that instantly creates an alarm because our maintenance technicians are trained to send a signal before they open the cabinet. So cabinet opens in the middle of the night or some random instant, we already know and we're already dispatching resources.
Would I be hurt if I opened one of those cabinets and touched something?
Well, it is a public utility substation. We will have danger high voltage signs.
Okay,
When you talk about the battery energy storage, I'm happy to say battery energy storage systems like these are only 480 volts. So that's the same as the commercial HVAC systems. So there's no special hazards there. However, yes, there is 13,800 volts danger high voltage, like any substation. That's why there's such there's a 7-foot fence and various placards that warn you not to do that. But that's not a different hazard than you would experience if you went to a substation and climbed the chain link fence, which of course we encourage you not to do.
thank you. Any other questions from the board before we open a public hearing? Okay, could I get a motion to open a public hearing?
Eric Talbot, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Rich Klein, second.
Is there anybody in the room or on Zoom that would like to speak to this matter? No? Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn the public hearing, please?
Rich Klein, motion to adjourn.
First and second motion.
Okay, hearing no objections. Okay, so next steps, seems like there's a lot of information that's still required here. We're not at a point that we would want to declare a lead agency for seeker. or anything
No,
like
they
that.
still need to submit an environmental assessment.
Right.
So if they submit that next month, then we can start with at least the notice of intent.
We did submit an
I
environmental
didn't see it as part of the packet.
EAF.
Yeah. So I'll take a
Okay,
look
thank you.
again, but I didn't see it as part of the packet.
Okay, great. Can I get a motion to adjourn the item, please?
Rich Klein, motion to adjourn.
Eric Talbot, second.
Okay, any objections? Hearing none, motion approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is our last new business of the board, but
One question
Oh,
for,
sure.
Phil, thank you all very much for listening to us tonight. Do we have a date certain that we're adjourned to?
The March meeting, yeah, I can tell you exactly when that is.
Great.
It will be March 24th,
Thank you.
so precisely 1 month from today.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. I was just going to say, that was our last new business. Everything else on the agenda is adjourned matters. And Valerie, is there anything we need to pay attention to in the adjourned matters and how about?
The 209, 211 Main Street, they're still moving forward. They asked for an adjournment though. 34th State Street, they're still working to revise their plans, so they should be coming back next month. 59 Dale specifically asked to be adjourned to April, so we probably still have like another month or so before they come back. And then 217 Main Street is waiting on the village board for payment of parking. 171 Croton Avenue is the same thing, and then plus they have to still come back to the board to finalize things. That's it.
Okay, great. Okay, I think that's it.
There's one more vitally important thing that I want to make sure we don't miss.
Okay.
I don't know who wants to lead, but we have a very special birthday tomorrow. I don't know
Oh,
if anyone wants to start the song.
I'm a terrible singer, so it won't be me.
I said, whose
Yeah,
birthday?
Oh, the one who's turning
Oh,
pro.
oh,
There.
That's not that
15 Shades of Red, yeah.
one.
So we're gonna do a rock and roll version?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kevin. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a wonderful birthday.
Yeah, really.
Not long before.
Yeah.
I will be heading to the Cayman Islands on Thursday, so it will be
Very
a very nice birthday.
Perfect.
Enjoy that. That sounds fantastic.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
I
You
guess
guys will never know when my birthday is.
I will find out, Tony. And that is a threat.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, no objections.
Okay.
This is the shortest.
Right.
Correction too.
Oh, hang on just 1 second. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Right.